Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Vaquera Studios, where we talk about all things self care, mindful moments, and of my life here in the desert. I'm your host, Olivia Rodriguez Mendez. And before we start, I just want a quick shout out. We have a live audience today. You can hear my biggest fan on the back, my baby, and my partner, of course. This is amazing. I envisioned a live audience at one point for my podcast. I just didn't think it would happen so soon, but I'm super happy, super blessed to have them here as my first ever live audience. And a big thank you for everyone who tuned in to episode 1 of Vaquera Studios, the first ever episode. It truly meant the world to me having so many folks tune in and have just so much support all around. My last week was really filled with an abundance of joy. That meant the world to me. Again, I'm just really thankful and I'm excited to see where this podcast takes us. In today's episode of Vaquera Studios, what you can expect is we'll be diving into the New Year's resolution, bringing in the new year together, and I'll leave you all with some reflections to take with you as folks continue to navigate the beginning of 2025. So before we get into the New Year's resolution, I do want to start off by talking about my unhealthy relationship that I had with productivity tools. I do believe that they do serve a purpose, and by all means, use them in a way that makes sense to you. And like they say, right? Our self-worth shouldn't be measured by productivity. And I think it's definitely one thing to say it and resonate with it and agree with it. And it's another thing, at least for me, it was to like fully practice what that meant and what that looked like in my day-to-day life. So pre-pregnancy, I was definitely a person that was really harsh on myself, or that just always looked for like, what else can I add on my to-do list? Or I got all of this done, like this feels amazing. Like what else can I do? Always looking to add more. Never really like, let's look for ways to unwind, or let's look for ways to slow down today, or anything like that. And mind you, these were all like things that I was adding on were things that brought me happiness, things that brought me joy, spaces that I did want to be a part of. But it just became a lot. Like I would find that it wasn't like necessarily sustainable, right? Ever since I was little, really. So I was like, I can do it. I have the energy, I have the time. It's like all or nothing type of mentality, which was not sustainable. But it definitely got me through a lot of moments in my life, like college especially. Like I think that type of energy I did tap into, and I did recognize like what it did to me. Like for example, if I was doing like so much and I wasn't maybe sleeping properly, like if I'm stressed or if I'm tense, a lot of that I carry like in my shoulders. When I became pregnant with my first baby, I was kind of like, okay, like I've come to a point where I'm like, I definitely want to like step away from that, moving in such a way that's harmful to my body, especially now at this point in my life. I don't want to be carrying that amount of stress, that level of stress, if I can, if especially if I can do anything to avoid it during this time of my life. And for me, I knew it meant that I was going to have to be moving slower. And also when I had my baby, it did force me to do a complete like just reevaluation of the way that I moved in this world. When I was still in that healing process, I was not able to do much, and I had to come to like terms with that and show myself grace and allow myself space and time to heal, and being okay with like, I'm just a mom right now and that's okay. I'm not looking to add anything else at this moment in my life, where I'm healing and I'm connecting and I'm bonding with my baby. It's okay that you're not doing like a million things today. It's okay that all I'm doing today is cuddling with my baby. And especially living in a world where we have a lot of like societal expectations during that time of like a mother's life, when there's the expectation of bouncing back. When are you going to work? When are you going to have baby number 2? And kind of like unconsciously you start looking for those milestones in your baby of when are they going to start teething? Oh, they're going to start crawling, they're going to start walking, they're going to start eating, all of these things, like just wanting to fast forward life, moving on to the next thing like as soon as possible. And I was kind of just like, no, I want time to slow down. Why can't we enjoy the moment right now? Like my baby's just a baby. There's this beautiful word that I loved and I really connected with during this time of my life. It was apapachame, which means acariciame con el alma. It can translate to embrace me with your soul. And that's such a beautiful word to me. There's this thing that folks also say, like there's Velcro babies that are like attached to moms, right? Like 24/7. And for me, it was like I became a Velcro mom. Like I wanted to have my babies close to my heart. I wanted to just cuddle with them constantly. And, I grew up with the saying of like, oh, los vas a embrasilar. And I was kind of like, you know what? I personally don't really believe in that. And y si los embracilo, like it's okay. I don't mind. Like I'll hold my baby. And with baby number two, he's about to be 5 months old. I'm just kind of like how did we get here already? And I've been happy that I've been able to practice that, just being more present as I possibly can. And I'm really grateful that I do have support system that where I can be a Velcro mom and have my baby in my arms for as long as possible. So I would definitely say that at this point in my life, I definitely had let go of like the urge to have checklists, having all these to-dos. And let me tell you, it felt so liberating to just be more fully present in the moment. I mean, I still do have my checklist, right? Of like, what are one or two things that need to get done? Like maybe not today, but like by the end of this week, so that I'm okay, so that my family's okay at the end of the day. So with that said, definitely heading into New Year's, it's not always about like new year, new me. And so as I approach the new year, even though it's quite literally a new year, new me moment that I'm having, if you're not watching the video, I did cut a good length of my hair off and I added some more honey blonde to it. So quite literally, I feel like I'm embracing the new year, new me phrase. But I will say I didn't like make this appointment with the intention of that. It just happened to land on the new year. But with that said, I think I'm more of a mindset of like, it's okay to welcome in the new year with the old me. That's something that I've been resonating a lot more of. These past few years, I do find that this time of year tends to be a time where I'm in a more of a like a mindset of where I'm reflecting a lot. And my babies during the winter season, it's when the flu comes up, the colds come up, and all of that. So I'm really like full on like caretaker mode, and that's been okay for me of just like fully embracing that and being there for loved ones. And I do love to see everyone's like New Year's resolutions. I do love to see everyone's intentions for the New Year's, the mood boards I'm obsessed with. But I do also we just want to make space for folks. Like if you haven't made New Year's resolutions, I'm just here to remind you that it's okay to like reset your intentions. It's okay to reset your resolutions. And it's definitely okay to let go of some of those goals that we have might have set for ourselves. I think sometimes the energy that can come with setting up those resolutions is kind of like looking at ourselves when it's fixing in ourselves. But I just want to like have some space and invite you to think of, have we made space for ourselves to embrace where we're at today, even if it's not the version of ourselves that we're striving for? Have we made space to just honor where we're at in 2025 at the beginning of the year and showing ourselves grace? Maybe we didn't accomplish all of the goals we set for ourselves in 2024, and that's okay. Maybe some of the goals that we set don't necessarily need to have a deadline of December 31st. Maybe it's intentions that we set for ourselves that will carry us throughout this lifetime, and that's okay. So I'm just inviting you all like maybe to do a little revisit to your resolution and kind of asking ourselves like maybe I don't need to add more necessarily. And so I do want to share this story that my basketball coach shared with me in high school. And during this time of my life, one of my goals was to use my voice more as the captain of the team. And if you know me, like there's this scene in Everything Everywhere All at Once where the characters are rocks, like literal rocks. And I like resonated with that scene so much. I'm like, I'm a rock. I've been a rock for like parts of my life and I'm just like existing in the world. But point in my life where I am the captain of a basketball team, there's expectations, right? Like to use my voice and to be more vocal, not just necessarily leading by example. So I wanted to work through that. And I was working closely with my coach to develop some like action steps to get me towards that goal. And she shared this story with me like and I don't remember it fully, but it went something like this. There was a person that was climbing up to get to the top of the mountain, and throughout this person's journey they would stop and look at where they were at, just enjoying the view, right? Enjoying how far they had come. And it was such a beautiful view, and it's so good to like stay there, right? And to kind of enjoy those moments. And my question essentially asked me, but don't you want to get to the top? And at that time in my life, like the answer was yes. Yes, I do want to get to the top. This is my senior year. Time's running out. This is something that I definitely want to do, not just for myself, but for the team as well. I think about that story here and there. And my response is definitely, I do not want to get to the top. I am happy where I'm at. I want to like be here for a good amount of time and watch my children grow up and enjoy every single second of it. There's different aspects of my life where I definitely want to continue climbing up that mountain, right? In the way that I parent, in the way that I show up for myself, in the way that I take care of myself so I can show up and care for my kids. Disclaimer, I do believe that tracking apps, that productivity apps do serve a purpose in how we go about our day-to-day lives, especially if folks do have the need to like track because of health reasons or financial reasons or whatever it may be. Like, continue to do that. Share some tips below. I'd love to learn about your favorite tools to or your favorite ways to have intentions. They don't necessarily, again, have to be tied to productivity tools. They can definitely be mood boards. They could definitely be journaling your resolutions, or just in the way that you choose to manifest them. I would love to hear. I'm a person that doesn't necessarily look to the new year to set intentions. I set them at times and days that just speak to me. For example, one of them that I've had since I became pregnant with my first baby is to be striving for ways that I continue to grow and unlearn about just how to be a better parent for my children. Just being more mindful about the way that I talk to them and communicate with them. And I will say, I don't always get it right. And in those moments, I definitely might not catch myself while I'm talking to my kids, but I do want to make space for having those conversations with my partner. Like, you know what? I don't like how maybe I approached this situation, and what can we do so we're on the same page? Can we try this next time? And just having those conversations with my partner have helped me out so much, and we're figuring it out as we go. And it's definitely hard work, but definitely our hearts and soul are in it. It's been a really beautiful journey to be a parent with my partner, and that continues to be part of every new year resolution that I have. It's just been a constant like promise that I've made to myself and my kids. With that being said, how I do look at the new year is kind of like, now as a mom, it's kind of like, okay, in this year, what are some of the things that my children have coming up? For example, my toddler, what he has coming up this year is that he's getting ready to go to school potentially. So I'm definitely going to be focusing a lot on how can I best support that transition from spending, all day at home with family to being in a school setting. That's definitely at the top of mind when I think of 2025. The thing about resolutions, oftentimes they're at a very, very individual level. Like, yes, let's go for it. But at the same time, as I'm setting all these resolutions myself, there's a lot of excitement behind it. There's a lot of like energy that I want to pour into it that comes from a loving, a healing place. I also want to be realistic about where we're at in 2025 as a community, as a world, as a society. Some of the energy that's already being set for 2025, that's not new to many communities, is the fact that there's a lot of folks in power that are coming into 2025 with the intention that are going to harm our communities. That a lot of the conversations that I was having with friends as 2024 was ending was, how are we going to show up in 2025? How have folks been showing up for community, and how can we continue to further support those spaces? So I leave you with that, just stressing the importance of, really, if you haven't already, as we continue to navigate the beginning of 2025. And for our segment of reflections for this episode, I know I did say last episode that I did want to use this segment to share self-care practices with you all. So if you do have a self-care practice that you're currently loving, that you're currently practicing, definitely comment them below if you're comfortable with me sharing them on future episodes. But for this one, I did want to take some time during this segment for this episode to really just share with you all some of my offerings to you for the new year as folks continue to navigate the first days of 2025. And those are, how will you be showing up for yourself this year? What are some of those spaces, some of those people that can hold you close and dear to their hearts, to their souls? And also, how are you going to be showing up for others? I really do believe that when we show ourselves self-love and we fully embrace that, we can show up and provide that same amount of love and care for others as well. For example, one of the things that I was navigating a few years ago when I was learning to let go of that productivity mindset, that allowed me to be more in tune with my feelings. I think for a long time, I did look at my vulnerability as a weakness. And a lot of that had to do with kind of like growing up in a place where I kind of had all these thoughts about like the gender norms and kind of wanting to defy that. I did play a sport that was sweaty, that was athletic, that was aggressive. For that time of my life, I was just kind of really, I took pride in kind of like, I never cry. I just kind of like get through the hard days and kind of like that tough mentality. So a few years ago, when letting go of that type of mindset of wanting to be more in tune with my feelings, I realized that for me, it did mean to embrace my vulnerability and recognize this as part of my strength, and that it's okay to cry. And in that time of my life, when I was allowing myself to feel and not feel shame for crying, not feel shame for feeling sad or for feeling any type of way, really allowing myself to feel was so healing. That's when I entered my like poetry era, my journaling era, my healing era, when I was like really experiencing all of these feelings and processing a lot of the things that I didn't allow myself to process back then. Which fast forward to now, that has really allowed me to show up in such a beautiful way for my kids when they cry, when they experience different feelings, when I experience different things, or where I was navigating postpartum and kind of just like really leaning into support system, whereas before I was like, no, no one can see me cry. If I cry, I'm locking myself in my room or in the bathroom or things like that. And I'm so thankful I did that work a few years ago. I really invite you. How are you showing up for yourselves? What are those spaces? What are those people que te pueden apapachar, that can hold you close to their heart, that can hold you close to their soul? How are you showing up for others? Because this year we're gonna need it. It demands it. Thank you all so much for tuning in to episode 2 of Vaquera Studios. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.